Well, I think it's time we talk about a 1995 movie with two names. Starring Marc Singer as Jack Ford, Matthias Hues as Hawks, a mercenary who resembles the bad guy from Die Hard, at least to me, and Rochelle Swanson as Beth. Droid Gunner, or Cyberzone. They couldn't decide. So essentially an earthquake damaged the world, separating the rich from the poor. The rich live in high-rises and the poor exist on the surface, choked by smog and crime. Jack's on the job looking for a missing woman when he's attacked by an android. Shoots it, cuts off its head, puts its head in a bag, carries it around for a while. Then later he goes through an alley, gives a kid a coin because he's a nice guy. Now in the strip club, we've got Brinky Stevens playing a sexy cat lady, and a pirate bartender who doesn't like to serve droid gunners. Next we jump to Hawks, who's breaking into a facility to steal pleasure droids. He gets these half-naked women to follow him back to his ship, where he's then attacked in space by more Roger Corman stock footage. Once he deals with that, the women start to gang up on him, and though he tells them, "I never sample the merchandise," he really has no choice. We revisit Ford, who's having flashbacks from Dead Space, also starring Marc Singer, but a completely different movie. Let's relax with the stock footage, guys. It's starting to make no sense. He gets a message on his answer machine to go to a fancy high-rise building where he wears his raggedy trench coat and smokes a cigar, and they offer him $10,000 to find these pleasure droids. He bargains it to $100,000 because, they're worth more on the black market. He also gets a technician. Beth, who is a talented technician, accompanies him to the surface, where they run into a couple guys cooking some strange food over a fire. Then they get their first clue that 4 new nuns showed up at the soup kitchen, and they're rather attractive, in a 90s porn style way. But these guys find this food appealing, so... Then we meet Chuba, who's kinda like Jabba the Hutt. He sits on a throne in an empty room with a sexy slave girl dancing around and a couple enforcers, and another girl sitting right beside him with a handcuff collar attached to her neck or something. Living the life. Jack delivers the head of the cyborg and doesn't get any intel, but when he leaves, Chuba calls men he's working with to kill Jack. This 5-minute meeting actually costs him daylight because suddenly it's night. Now, not all first dates are great, but Jack takes Beth to a whorehouse, where she pretends to want a job, and Jack starts scanning rooms with his little device looking for the pleasure droids. He interrupts a couple having sex, and it turns out to be one of the girls he was looking for earlier. The flirty banter continues to build between Jack and Beth, but then they're attacked by a couple of Chuba's men and manage to fight them off. Cyber judo at full force here. And the leader of New Angeles, who's actually a corrupt person, sends his assassin droid who really wants to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, what should we do now? Strip club? Yeah, strip club. I mean, the waterfront, where they interrogate pirate bartender, but it's actually sexy cat lady who helps out Jack. Then the Terminator shows up and Jack has to kick him to the chest. He starts a short circuit and Beth plugs him in, shuts him down, finds out his 3 directives: protect none, kill Jack, and airstrike activated. The airstrike is actually just a guy from a helicopter shooting at Jack. Jack shoots back with his revolver and blows it up. So at this point, Jack's been shot, so they go back to his apartment and he pulls out the bullet with a pair of pliers. They weren't even needle nose. Jack says something tough and then passes out. Hawks drops off the cargo to New Angeles, but they notice he only has 3 of 4 pleasure droids, so they only pay him $8 grand each. Dude, they're worth like $1 million on the black market. I do really enjoy this line though. So Jack's been shot, wakes up, talks to Beth about his long-lost love because she asked about the watch and who gave it to him. Then he decides he's gonna fool around with her and pulls down her top and just stares for a few seconds before he says he can't. That's not gonna create some insecurities. Then Chuba's men show up, take him back to Chuba. Jack takes care of business, gets some answers out of Chuba, which leads him to Hawks. So back to the waterfront. So at the strip club, with Brinky Steve and the sexy cat lady working the stage, they talk to Hawks. So Hawks and Jack come up with a plan to use Beth as a forced sex bot. Could work. The only difference I've really noticed is Beth's acting is a bit better. Jack calls his employer and tells him that the crime lord and savior of New Angeles is the same guy. And they take the submarine down and start sneaking around really terribly. I'm glad Jack's bullet wound does not affect him because he had to fight a few people. Humberstone is the leader of New Angeles, and he founded this big religious place where everybody was pure, and decided if he added some sin he could make more money. And then he decided he had to sample the merchandise, and I loved how disgusted he was when he found out Beth was human. Side note, worst chief of security ever, though his elfhood would inspire Andromeda with Kevin Sorbo later. Hawks and Jack find the pleasure droids but say there's about 100 men they need to go through. I'd say more like a dozen. Humberstone's telling Beth his evil plan when she destroys him with this interesting device. During the gunfight, I will at least say Jack is aware he has a 6-shooter and reloads often. Also, this guy's acting is amazing. So shit security guard is still alive somehow, and he has Jack's watch, the one his dead girlfriend gave him. So they could just shoot him and take it back, but instead let's have a quick draw contest. Jax and Hawks don't even have holsters. This is terrible, like how close they are to each other. It's 2-on-1, and they fire off so many shots before anyone's hit, and Hawks is hit. I mean, like, walk it off, dude. Jack did. And he dies. Oh, how this could have been avoided. Kinda feel bad for the guy. Jack gets his 300,000 and Beth decides to give up her high and mighty life and go with him. In Jack's defense, he keeps it real and his job takes him to new and interesting places, like the waterfront. Also, those two bums from earlier, they run into the fourth nun and have some implied fun later. I actually kinda like this one. Singer's in fine form, and although it's by the numbers, Beth's progression from stuck up to sympathetic is done really well. The world they created is interesting, even though we don't see a lot of it, with underwater cities, high-class buildings, and the slums, not to mention the waterfront, where they can only afford one mutant sexy cat lady. Come to think of it, she was the only mutant we saw in the movie and was referred to. I wonder why they decided to put that in there. Let me just clarify though, not a complaint. Seedy crime lords and assassin droids, this movie had a lot of ideas and things going for it. And although 90% of the people are going to write this off as crap, sometimes someone's trash is someone else's gold. It has a nice little detective story, so if you like bad sci-fi, this might be for you. And as always, thanks for watching.